Sternocleidomastoid. While this muscle name can be a bit intimidating, it actually tells us where this muscle attaches. So if we look at each term individually, so sterno is sternum, cleido is clavicle, and then mastoid is the mastoid process. So we have basically exactly where this muscle is right there in the name. So often the sternocleidomastoid is shortened to the SCM, so you'll hear that a lot. And it's this long superficial strap muscle, which we have one on each side of the neck, and it has two heads at the origin, so that's the sternum and the clavicle part. And then the muscle comes together to just one insertion point, and then that's going to be the mastoid process, so like right behind and under the ear. So the SCM is a muscle that you can find on the anterior lateral aspect of the neck. And just remember, when we're talking about muscles of the neck, the trunk, the spine, it's always important to see what happens if only one side is activated and what happens if both sides are activated together. So we're going to see that with the sternocleidomastoid here in a bit, where if we have one side that's activated, we call that a unilateral action, and if both sides are activated, we call that a bilateral action. So this is a really good thing to keep in mind for all of the muscles of the spine, the neck, the trunk, going forward. So looking at the origin for the sternocleidomastoid, we have the sternum and the clavicle. Its insertion is the mastoid process. And here's where we see bilateral and unilateral. So whenever we talk about actions of these muscles, you might see where it's like a bilateral action and a unilateral action. So bilaterally, so if both of your SCMs on each side contract together, you see head and neck flexion. And then unilaterally, it's action. So if only one of the SCMs on one side activates, then you'll see lateral neck flexion to the same side of that SCM, and you'll see rotation of the head to the opposite side of that SCM. Something else we see here under actions is that the SCM is an accessory muscle of ventilation. So we have our primary muscles for breathing, which is our diaphragm and like our intercostals, but then we have accessory muscles. So they're not used with like relaxed breathing. They're used for whenever you take deep breaths or your body has to recruit more muscles for that extra help with breathing. So the SCM is one of those that can do that. So it's not a primary muscle for ventilation, but it can assist when needed. Then we look at the nerve. So the SCM, it's innervated by the accessory nerve, which is cranial nerve 11, and it's also innervated by the second and third cervical nerves.